about the other guy. That's the kind of mentality that wins games for sure. Like, you got to find the kids that aren't going to be afraid to compete, that are going to go out there as tenacious as possible. Like, if they have to scrap for their yards, and make sure they don't come off the field.
I like that. So yesterday I did a show and I talked about the 2020 class. Give me 2 players that you think can make an immediate impact next year.
Oh, well, number one, I don't know how much they're going to see. I don't know how much the line has improved, and I don't know exactly how new offensive line coach Justice looks at Jalen Rivers, but I would love it if Jalen Rivers could come in there and take one of those spots. I know it's another year of a true freshman starting on the offensive line, but the kid has talent, and the kid is big and physical, and he looks like the kind of guy that, starts at a team that's going to an ACC championship game. If that physical profile is something that we need to get on that line. And with all this talent that we should have, these guys getting a year older and Scaife and all them, I think Rivers could slide in there and do some damage if anything's going on, or at the very least, be the sixth man. Having 6, 7, 8 guys in an offensive line room is very important. So hopefully he's able to do that. And honestly, the other guy, I know it's kind of recent hype to come into it, but Avantae, is he worse than right now, just being a high schooler still, is he worse than maybe the 4th best safety on the roster? Talent-wise, he's way up there. He's going to get a lot of runs. He's going to get an opportunity to go in there and play. And he might even be the 3rd safety if they move Amari Carter up to linebacker or striker. So he's going to be seeing the field right away. So I'm not worried about, him thinking about transferring, because unlike his cousin, he's going to see the field plenty year one.
So you're thinking, so my thing with Avantae Williams is we got Bubba Bolden, we got Gervin Hall, we got Amari Carter. And I know a lot of people say, well, we did do a lot of safety rotation, but at the same time, they loved Robert Knowles. Banda, Baker, they trusted Robert Knowles. Robert Knowles maybe didn't make the highlight plays, but they knew he would be where he needed to be. I don't know if they're going to have the same trust in Avantae Williams. So how do you see him making the field? Who's going to have to take some snaps back?
Well, I think with Knowles is that, you're absolutely right. They put a lot of trust in Robert Knowles, and they put him in weird spots. There will be times where they line him up close to the line of scrimmage, almost like a linebacker, just to get a little bit more speed close to the line of scrimmage. So I think a guy like that, or closer up, Bubba Bolden was tremendous last year in the 5 games that he played, and it was a shame that he got hurt the way he did. But I think if you have him back and you have him being the center fielder, there's a lot you can do with those dudes up front. That's where I think a guy who can hit like Avantae or even like a Gervin Hall, you can keep them closer to the line of scrimmage, and Bubba's going to erase a lot of mistakes back there, kind of like we had with Jaquan and Redwine, where those guys knew where each other was going to be so often that it was so easy to do different things with the interior of that defense because you had 2 guys so solid. So with Bolden healthy for a whole year, I think Avantae, and depending on what you want to do with Carter could be the close-up in the box type of guy. There's a lot of things you could do with those other 3 safeties because Bolden is going to be so strong, in my opinion, next year.
So what do we do with Keontra Smith, a guy that everybody was excited about last year?
I think he's just got to earn his way on the field. I don't think – I know Gervin Hall kind of had an up-and-down year. I don't think he's perfect. I think – Avantae could take time from him. I think maybe Smith could take some time too. Maybe it's an opportunity at striker if some things go wrong if there's injuries. Because with the way this goes, there's always going to be some guys that get hurt and leave the field. And if he gets his opportunity, he's got to come in and shine. One of the things that we reposted after watching the Kane Super Bowl thing was Reggie Wayne, when he got hurt, he was afraid to come off the field because he saw Andre Johnson over on the sideline. So they got to feel that if Smith's making plays in practice and Smith's stepping up and he's ready to roll, someone goes down, Smith comes in, he may never give that job back.
And I think that's going to be on Manny. We speak about Manny doing this and Manny doing that. With the transfer portal, your coach has to be you got to recruit to keep them there. And is Manny the guy that these guys can have faith once they get there? I think that's going to be a lot too. Can Manny go to a Keontra Smith or a Avantae Williams and say, I know you're not seeing the field right now, but I promise you there's a rainbow at the end of this, And so I know a lot of people didn't like the way the whole Lorenzen Lingard thing went down. So do you have?
And that was a tough situation for sure.
So do you have trust in Manny to be able to manage the roster, and or are you the type where it's like, hey, if you want to transfer, go ahead and transfer?
Oh man, I grew up with those Canes teams in the late '90s and early 2000s where it was like, if your mindset is anywhere but getting this team 10, 11, 12 wins, you're not in the right kind of mind space for helping this team get to that point. So I think 10 wins cures a lot. 11 wins cures almost everything. 12 wins cures everything you will ever have. You might lose guys, but if people don't want to be a part of a double-digit win team, then they're not the kind of guys going to get you over the hump anyway. So if you go 6 and 7, then people should be whispering and saying like maybe I should play. But if you go 10 wins with those guys, then obviously those are the right guys on the field.
Okay, so where do you stand with Brian Hightower? There's been a faction of people that are saying we should bring Brian Hightower back. Right now, as we're recording this, there hasn't been a update of where he's playing next year.
It's strange. It's really, really strange. And it's the kind of thing that kind of goes out of your head, and then you'll see something on Twitter where you're like, oh, yeah, Hightower, like maybe he'll come back. And then you're kind of waiting for it, especially when we started getting those transfers in and like the supporter was kind of like hitting it, its fever pitch and guys were making decisions. You almost expected it to hear him go somewhere or come back. But then you still didn't really hear anything. I would, if he wants to come back and compete, that would be great. I do think he's going to be behind Wiggins and Pope for sure. And Peyton's going to come up. When Peyton gets his opportunity, he's going to come on like a house of fire, and he's going to be ready to roll because he's one of those guys that has all the talent in the world. And I know Pope does too, and I know Wiggins does too, but I think Peyton's a guy that when he gets his opportunity, everyone's going to notice just how good he is. And he was one of those real high 4-star guys too. So I don't think you could look past him either. But if Hightower wants to come back, there's an opportunity. You just got to compete for it.
All right, guys, you're watching Canes After Dark. If you're on YouTube, go ahead and shoot some questions, and I'll ask them to Chris. If you're listening to this on the podcast, make sure you rate and review the podcast. I appreciate you. We got Chris from Canes Legacy. You can find him on Twitter at Canes Legacy.